I'm your host, Trey Edge, and I look forward to going on this journey with you. Each episode, I'll talk to guests of all walks of life, and I'll ask them the behind-the-scenes truths we all want to know. I'll reach out to newsmakers, celebrities, athletes, and ordinary individuals who were there during some of the biggest events of our time. Together, we will hear the story behind the story. So let's get started. This is The Edge of It All. Welcome in, everyone, to the latest episode of The Edge of It All. Really appreciate everyone joining us today on whatever podcast outlet you have chosen. Don't forget our home studio, our home base, where you can get not only this podcast, but numerous other entertaining podcasts. That's UBN Go International Network, UBN Go International Network. What a guest we have today. He is the very definition of being on the cutting edge of a subject that everyone can relate to. No matter what spectrum of life you're looking at us from, this subject will be near and dear to you. He is the CEO of NuCalm. That's NuCalm, NuCalm, the first streaming service for your brain. That's right, the first streaming service for your brain. Please welcome Jim Poole to The Edge of It All.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, and on this lovely day, let's talk about some good stuff, Trey.
Absolutely, Jim. Appreciate you being with us, and I want to jump right into it. I want to get into some backstory about NuCalm. I want to get into your story and your career. But before we do that, I just want to give you the opportunity and put it out there for you to tell everyone right out of the box what NuCalm is and what it does. Now, we've got to keep it kind of PG scientific for guys like me, because it can't go over my head. But just throw out there to us and to the audience exactly what NuCalm is and what it does.
Today, Trey, we as a human species we're in trouble. I think we all know this. We feel the highest levels of stress, anxiety, uncertainty, worry, fear. Our sleep is the worst it's ever been as a species. NuCalm is the answer. For 33 years, we've been creating complex neuroscience solutions that solve complex human problems, such as stress, anxiety, and sleep. So we have a solution that is drug-free and now easy to use, affordable, and accessible. In 2009, we launched what wasn't affordable and accessible in a $6,000 FDA Class 3 medical device and exclusively served the Department of Defense, military, professional athletes, professional airline pilots, doctors, and cancer patients. But our technology is derived and built around a fundamental, easy way to manage your mental state. That's what we do.
Amazing. And we'll get into how that happens and the mechanisms by which you do that. But that in and of itself is an incredible statement to be able to make, especially in today's times. The work you've done in this neuroscience area, can you trace it back to things early in your life that maybe got you interested? I believe your parents were psychotherapists, I believe, in that field. Can you trace it back to those days and say your interest was piqued in that arena back then?
Probably. As a kid, you typically want to do what your parents don't do and don't do what your parents do. My mother and father were psychotherapists and still are. They're still functioning. They're still practicing. And so my twin brother and I grew up in a family or a household of caretakers. And there's a lot of complexity to the mental health world because you can't see the wounds, but intuitively you can feel something's not right here. So I definitely grew up with the curiosity of that. But I think more importantly, Trey, I grew up with an exceptional empathy and ability to listen, if not with my ears, with my eyes and observation, just kind of seeing what's going on here. So that I think that helped me. I followed the path of my parents and pursued psychotherapy and worked with the state mental health institutions of Massachusetts for 5 years.
Okay.
Got to a point where I was like, I can't take this. I thought as a kid, that immortal sense of you're 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I could change the world. I literally believe I
Yeah,
could change the world. And working with some of the sickest profiles of humanity on this earth, coming out of the mental health institutions, it quickly made clear to me that I may not be able to help myself, let alone help others, because it takes a lot just to stay sane when you're working in that environment all the time. So I think, yeah, my socialization from my parents and my upbringing certainly put me in a position where, hey, this is really cool stuff. And the inability to help as many people as I wanted to is simply based out of the concept that you really can't help anybody or control anybody's change. They have to, you
sure.
can facilitate her. It actually led me to a path of trying to figure out quantitatively how I would do this. So I pursued an MD PhD program at Harvard Medical School and then applied to an MD PhD program in neuropsychopathology. Most
That's a
people
lot
never,
of letters. I'm just
yeah,
telling you.
most people had never even thought that could be a career choice. And basically, you're trying to study the etiology of mental illness in a quantitative fashion, in a biological fashion. And I got accepted to the program and then said, you know what? I don't think I want to go to school for 8 more years. So
I can relate.
I ended up going to Babson for marketing and my MBA and pursued business. That's what I did.
And that's an interesting tact because when you talk about the neuroscience part of this, the mental side of this, and then the business side of this, when I saw your background, your parents, and then the direction you took, and then you paired that with your degree in business and marketing, did you look at that immediately and say, I know it's the part you want to help people? That's what's underneath all of this. But where does that moment happen where it comes together and says, this can not only help people, but this can be my job, my career?
So in 2008, I managed the largest acquisition in the history of the dental industry for private equity. It was a multi-$100 million acquisition. And in that process, at that time, the market was starting to sour and mergers and acquisitions were starting to dry up and there was more portfolio management. And at that time, in parallel, Dr. Holloway, the neuroscientist who invented NuCalm, was looking for a way to bring this invention to the world because he was a neuroscientist, not a businessman, and he had
Mm-hmm.
Asperger's. So the ability for him to take this to the world was really limited. So we kind of converged. And in June of 2009, he connected with me. And it wasn't at that moment that I realized, wow, this could be what I choose to, make my purpose. And I wasn't having a Jerry Maguire moment, though I was pretty fatigued with Wall Street and private equity and kind of how we did what we did. And it's really hard to take over a company and to assimilate their culture into the future and to grow a company exponentially. It's a challenge.
Absolutely.
So Blake came to me, and here's what was fascinating, Trey. There's no reason on earth, in retrospect, and even at that time, that I would have stayed engaged with this conversation. And there was
Mm-hmm.
several reasons why I wouldn't. Number one, he was a neuroscientist and a founder.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in my experience as a business person, there's something called founderitis. And you can't extract the idea from the founder because their ego and their love is attached to it. You can't,
They own it.
yeah, they own it. You can't run their business. Blake didn't have that.
Right.
It could be that he was working so hard and so diligently on trying to create this, and he was failing miserably as a business person that he was acquiescing. I don't know, but it kind of all converged. It took me 10 weeks of diligence over the phone to finally come to the realization I need to get on a plane and go meet this person and try what he's talking about. But the sentence that he stated on the phone that engaged my curiosity was this: Jim, I have created a technology that quickly and safely and predictably relaxes the mind and body within minutes without side effects. And
Amazing.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah. Did you feel immediately that this was a big deal?
I definitely felt like Indiana Jones on an archaeological dig and we had found something unique. That was intuitive. You kind of felt it in your stomach. When I tried it in a doctor's office in Texas in 2009, something happened magnificent and I didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until our intellectual property attorneys came back with an assessment and intellectual property attorneys are not prone to hyperbole. And they said, if you get this patent, Mr. Poole, you will only patent the world for balancing the human autonomic nervous system, which manages human fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. And as a
Mm-hmm.
business person, intellectual property and patents is a really powerful defense mechanism and a exponential increase to your enterprise valuation. It's a really important piece of the strategic puzzle. And I'd never seen or heard such a grandiose capture of intellectual property. That statement and that analysis literally put the gavel down and said, okay, you're right. Your intuition is spot on.
Yeah.
Nothing like this has ever been created before. And you can bring this to the world.
And how rare is that? I mean, think about that statement in itself, that nothing else like this had ever been brought to the world. There aren't many people
No,
who have that experience to even be able to utter those words.
I have been challenged with that for 14 years.
Yeah.
Being a pioneer sounds cool and romantic. It's very challenging because humans are creatures of habit, and we must have a comparative. There must be something for us to compare something with, or our brain becomes paralyzed. And we've kind of battled that for entirety. I look at parallels because you want to have some reason that your pathological optimism is anchored to. I look at Walt Disney and I see a 40-year trajectory, and I see 7 times where he almost went bankrupt and other times where, he had to change businesses. And he passed 5 years before Disney World opened up, but it was a 40-year trajectory. I look at the microwave, invented by the physicist at Raytheon in the 40s, didn't become a household item until 1986. I look at Steve Jobs, who had to secure funding from his arch nemesis of
Right.
Microsoft to keep the company alive. So there appears to be a 40-year arc to pioneering. Well, I don't want to spend 40 years bringing
No one does.
And so for us, it's 33 years since the invention path began in 1990. But being a pioneer, it's really fascinating. If you're ego driven, you're going to be frustrated the entire path of pioneers because no one cares about what you do because they don't even understand what you do. It's
Exactly.
not until we become a household item decades from now that people will say, hey, it was Mr. Poole and Dr. Holloway who brought this to the world. And I'm
Yeah.
great with that. I don't need the accolades. I just want people to be able to change their state on demand without using drugs and compromising everything else in their life. So it's been fascinating. I could probably speak extemporaneously for 2 hours on the psychology of pioneering stuff. And you must have the perseverance, the determination, the understanding, and the sense of purpose, because every day is a grind, and every day you're just having to overcome all of these obstacles that businesses don't have to do. I've
Yeah.
run a lot of businesses. We didn't have any of these challenges.
Sure.
So yeah, the pioneer piece is fascinating, and it is cool. It is cool
Absolutely.
to be like, hey, when this is all said and done, we will have changed the human condition and left an indelible legacy on future generations of how humans live.
Yes.
I mean, hello.
To that point, I wanted to ask you what the tangible benefits each person can feel using NuCalm, but you mentioned when you tried it. So let me go to that first. How it affected you, how it changed you.
It has completely changed me. I'm so blessed and I feel so honored and privileged to be on this path for the personal evolution from a highly ambitious type A personality with determination and grit, but impatience, judgment, critical thinking. I don't think I was a great person to work for. I
Interesting.
don't. Upon reflection, I thought myself as a good human being, but my goodness, was I wired tight.
Yeah, I can relate.
Today, each of us suffer the same consequence of stress. And every day, stress happens. Sometimes it's internal with our own thinking. Most of the time, it's external from other people's um, imposing their stress on us. It changes how we think. It changes how we feel. It changes our breath. It changes our diaphragm. It changes our blood flow. It changes our cortisol in our stomach. It changes everything in our life. we're not even aware of this because we lack that self-awareness. And ironically, when you're in a stressed state, you have no self-awareness. And the reason is
Absolutely.
this. Let me take 1 minute just to explain the physiology of stress so people understand
Sure.
it. There are two critical elements of our brain and how it's been built of years and years. We're talking millions of years of circuitry. There's the midbrain here on the temporal region cross section here, and there's something called the amygdala. And the
Mm-hmm.
amygdala manages a lot of our behavioral patterns. It manages fear and stress, anxiety, depression, and worry. It manages fight, flight, or freeze and self preservation. But that part of our brain, we also call the reptile brain. It's not a high conscious order,
Gotcha.
but it's a perfected system of awesomeness. Think of millions of years of learning. The circuitry is perfected. So that part of our brain takes resources at its discretion because it thinks it's doing its job of protecting us. This part of our brain, our forehead, is what separates us from primates. And this part of our brain, our prefrontal and frontal cortex, is our patience, our presence, our executive functioning, our logic, our decision making, our emotions. This is where we want to play. Now, the currency of the human brain is not time, it's not
Mm-hmm.
money, it's oxygen rich red blood. Oxygen, the key element to healing. So, what happens is when we're triggered by a thought or we're in danger or a bill or a text, the amygdala says, hey, we're in trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can
We're
feel it.
not really in trouble. But it takes all the resources from our forehead. So we don't have access to our personality, our character, and our patience and our presence. We are literally in this low oxygen state where we're panicking. So what does NuCalm do? NuCalm puts the amygdala at the kids' table where it's belonged for centuries, but the
Amazing.
evolution of our brain hasn't kept up with the advancements of technology. Most of us, certainly in America, are blessed with the opportunity of not to live in constant state of fear and panic because of survival. But our brain hasn't evolved commensurately. So what NuCalm does is it uses very advanced complex physics that lies underneath music. The listener
Mm-hmm.
music, great. But what you can't hear is we're bringing a tank to a knife fight. Literally a gigabyte of mathematics underneath the music, presenting your brain with a signal that your brain follows. And the whole intention, the primary focus of NuCalm, is to downregulate and slow down your stress. So
Yeah.
when you're stressed, your brainwave frequency is going fast. We're going to take you opposite of that inertia, and we're going to hold you in this spot called theta, which is a certain frequency, 4 hertz to 7 hertz, and it's just above deep sleep. You're not sleeping, but in that state, Trey, your body is healing, repairing, and restoring. And over time, cumulative benefit of a daily regimen of NuCalm, you're redistributing that oxygen rich red blood and you're decreasing the power of the amygdala to sabotage you. I can tell you today that it'd be nearly impossible for you to trigger me. And I'm a highly wired dude, a wrestler through college, 2 black belts in martial arts, a twin
I'm
brother.
sold.
I'm aggressive. I love to just let's go. And I don't go anywhere. I'm very present. I'm responsive. I am not reactive. I still have emotions. You can still hurt my heart or make me angry, but you will not see me lose that sight. You know, when someone's really in that,
Mm-hmm.
they're gone. So NuCalm changes the game for all of us and allows us the access to who we want to be, to our truth, to our soul, to our heart, to our joy, to our gratitude. And most of us, we haven't been there in a long time.
No, no. And you can, I think every person has their own experience. I've been in medical device sales for a very, very long time. And that in and of itself presents a whole host of, first of all, medical device. And I hear this about NuCalm, it piques my interest. But there are stresses in every day. And you mentioned it's all individual. Everybody's stresses comes to them in a different way over different things. But in the world we live in today, world events, pressures of the job, money, etc., all that stuff, I want to ask you this. Youth today, coming out of COVID, for example, so we're still feeling the effects of that. How do you target youth in particular? Because it's a different set of stresses for them. And I'm not sure I've ever seen a generation, and I have two, daughters in their 20s. I've witnessed this. I've never seen a generation that stresses so much. And I don't know if there's a different way to target youth or not.
Well, I've got three girls. You've got two girls, 21, 19, and 16 for me. And you're right. This is the first generation, to my knowledge, that we're leaving the planet in a worse place than we inherited it.
Yeah.
So it's unconscionable to me. There's a lot of elements that combined appear to put the human race in a race to erase the human race.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's environmental toxins, geopolitical concerns, media fear mongering, poor food supply, or being tethered to technology and never being able to relax again.
Yeah.
We do have a target for youth now. For 32 years, to be honest with you, we didn't really have a target of anything. We were an insular Willy Wonka company focused on neuroscience. We were trying to figure out how to trick the brain and manage all 5 categories of brainwave function. And you don't do that overnight. And we have one of the best neuroscientists, naturopath, thinking human beings to walk this earth. And it took him 19 years to figure it out. So along our journey on the business side, in parallel to invention, we were just opportunistic. We started working with the Department of Defense in 2011, professional athletes in 2011, professional airline pilots. We would love to proactively say, hey, can we put a brakes on all the science stuff and actually focus on delivering this product to people? Now we get that opportunity. To me, it is a whole different ballgame than it used to be. In medical device sales, there's a pretty strong paradigm of how you do this. You go in and you speak to the doctor and you speak to the team. And well, today, to reach the youth, it has nothing to do with conventional marketing, television advertising, corporate
Absolutely,
America. In fact, that's like iconoclastic in their brain. It has everything to do with kids, 14-year-old pimple-headed kids on a keyboard doing social media. So it's going to be interesting to see how we penetrate this and how we do this. We currently work through the sports avenue at universities. Mm-hmm. And that's a great way to start because it's aspirational for a lot of kids on the campus. It's a galvanizing force for the kids. We have to get to the youth. I think what we need to do is build specific products for the youth, focused on sleep, stress management, and focus. And we have to make it sexy and easy.
No, I hear you.
Therein lies one of those challenges, Trey. So it's sexy and it's easy, and it's say $10 a month. Okay. Well, the kids today, and I just heard this week, Jim, it's hard for us to believe that an app can do this. The claims you make are incredible, but an app, we look to an app to order our Chick-fil-A or get free French fries somewhere. You're telling me I can change my mental state. I can deal with stress and anxiety, and I can sleep and I can focus. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we're telling you because that's what we've created. So
it's a big promise to make.
It is, and it's an amazing promise to be able to make, and an even more amazing to be able to back up the promises you make.
Along those lines, when you look at what NuCalm does for people, what insights have you gained about humans that fascinates you?
I'll tell you one thing that's really quite amazing to me. We're all the same. There's 8 billion of us. There's 8 billion. That's just unbelievable. So we all have stress. We all have fears. We all have insecurity and self-doubt. We all have what I call the itty bitty shitty committee. The committee behind our eyes that tells you all these things that you're not good at. Okay. That's just the amygdala. The amygdala doesn't want you to take any risks. If your central nervous system and amygdala had their way, they would keep you in your home for the rest of your life.
Absolutely,
because a habit, familiarity, security, no risk, no opportunity for shame, for failure.
It's safe.
So here's one thing I think people need to understand. We are all the same. Our brain is a brain. The human brain is built the same way. Our brain operates in a frequency range of 41 hertz. It's not up for debate. If your brain is in delta at the slowest waveform, you're sleeping. It's not like, hey, that person is not sleeping. No, it's there. But here's what's fascinating. Your stress is different from mine, as in where it comes from. Spouse, kids, neighborhood. but your stress response is identical to mine. Central
Uh,
nervous system and five senses pick up a stressor, alert the amygdala. Amygdala hits the HPA axis, cortisol, blood flow, everything goes from the extremities to the visceral organs, and my cognition goes away. It is exactly identical to every single human being every single day. And that connective tissue, I hope, helps people to better understand. Let's be less judgmental of others and
yeah,
less critical. And the cool thing about this is when you've developed a product that can lower stress and improve sleep, you're going to find across the planet and across geography and demographics and ethnicities that everybody suffers the same consequence of being human.
yeah.
Literally, from monks to punks, pilots to passengers, professional athletes to weekend warriors, students to in utero to 100 years old. 8 years ago, we started working with monks. They've been using our product to relax and facilitate their meditation.
Yeah.
So if we're doing that, then of course we can help all of us.
That part that ties us together. When you look at NuCalm, what are the challenges? What is the challenge or the obstacle you face when selling that technology to someone, convincing them
Yeah.
that it works?
So our path has been fascinating. It's required a lot of patience, man. I mean, you just can't take shortcuts when you're dealing with the brain. The brain is so complex and it's a closed loop compensatory mechanism. What does that mean? That means it knows how to get into balance. It knows how to take care of itself. It doesn't want any external stimulation. And anything you do to it, there's an equal reaction to it. So when Blake was figuring out, how do I use advanced physics through the ears to present the brain with a signal, knowing that the brain has the most powerful pattern recognition in the world called the reticular activating system? How am I going to do this? Because when I
Yeah.
do this, it's going to respond with this. Then I respond with this. It responds with this. The layers of meticulous design are so overwhelming. So our path was always build the perfect system. We started with stress management for trauma, addiction, cancer patients. And we did that in a clinical environment for 12 years. And when we built the perfect software, we said, hey, if we can do it for relaxation, we can probably do it for focus. And if we can do it for focus, we can probably do it for intensity. If we can do it for intensity, we can probably do it for sleep. So the 32-year invention path, which involved patents and FDA and all these things, it involved us figuring that out. The challenge today is 14 years ago, nobody that I met across this earth was talking about stress,
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a hot topic.
restoration. Now
Yeah.
it's a hot topic. So as we're building inside our tank and figuring this out, I'm seeing this proliferation of lies, of companies coming to market saying, hey, we can do this, we can do that. Well, I have the humility to know the complexity of the brain and how long it's taken our group. We have 52 medical advisors on our advisory board, statistical biophysicists from Harvard, mathematicians from NASA. We have the best of the best. It's taken us 32 years. So you can't just whip up something in your
Yeah.
face and say, hey, here's we go. So today, our challenge is this. We chose because we needed to make it easy. It was a $6,000 four-component complicated process. We weren't going to help enough people that way. So in
Yeah.
2016, we began a pathway and spent millions of dollars taking all of our science and putting it into a mobile app. So shame on us, because now we look like a mobile app. Well, Trey, we're not an app company. We're a neuroscience company delivering 33 years of patented neuroscience through an app so that humans can do it with ease. So we
But you
have
got to get it to them.
exactly. We've got some major obstacles in the form of this awareness of the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I fear that all the shenanigans and gimmicks and stuff that's out there making all these false promises is going to literally just deter anybody from taking any risk anymore. Number one. Number two, there's so much noise in the signal. So how do we stand apart? Well, here's what we decided to do. September 1st, we built a free trial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in giving anything away for free because the human brain doesn't value what's gifted. You can't override that. But somebody in the ethers of apps or something thought it was a good idea to bring them to market for free, almost commoditizing the entire industry. So we have to play by that rule. But here's what I
Absolutely.
about
Yeah.
our chances. NuCalm works, and it works the first time. It's not like, hey, you need to try this for 2 weeks before you feel something.
Let's see
You
how it
feel,
goes. Yeah.
you feel something immediately. So with a trial, all we need to do is say, hey, Calm and Headspace and Brain FM and Brain Tap, those are all great. They're not doing anything for you. Music and bedtime stories cannot help you heal.
Mm-hmm.
Impossible. How would you like to have access to what used to be a $6,000 FDA Class 3 medical device? $6,000. Exclusively available to the Department of Defense, the FBI, professional athletes, celebrities, and pilots. How'd you like to have that for $1 a day in the form of a mobile app? Bring your headphones. We got you covered.
Like I said before,
So that's the story. So we have to get it out there. Social media, influencers, right? And you just come to the trial. Today, our trial is converting 73% of every human who comes from
yeah.
anywhere on earth. You just put a headphone on, follow the directions, and we do the work for you.
You mentioned anywhere on earth. And I want to make sure we get to a couple more things here on this episode with you. And I appreciate it. Again, this is Jim Poole joining us, CEO of NuCalm, on the edge of it all. You spent time in Kenya. This piqued my interest here. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that students in Kenya, for example, have a different kind of stress or a different level of stress than students in the United States have. And you've spent time there and provided them with product. What have you done there? And what have you seen there because of NuCalm?
I can tell you right now, I have goosebumps everywhere just thinking about it. I have traversed this earth, educating people on how your brain works, how to help it, how to resolve stress, the need to get into balance, and the need for sleep, just to keep you alive. And when I landed in Kenya in November of last year, as soon as I landed in Nairobi, I felt a sense of peace and comfort and at home. I've never
Hmm.
felt that before anywhere. And I've been all
Interesting.
over the world, every continent. And I was like, well, I'm not black. Clearly, I'm not from here, but I'm here. I'm home. As we started to work with the children, remember, child of a psychotherapist, good
Mm-hmm.
listener, good observation, you're picking up on stuff everywhere. So, what I see is a culture of starvation, 55 million Kenyans oppressed by the British Empire, been free for several decades, but still have the genetic code of oppression. Infrastructure doesn't exist. Corruption is profound. But our kids, they don't worry about rape,
Yes.
animals eating them, fresh water, feminine hygiene products, and food. Every kid is starving, starving. I'll lecture. They'll come outside. They'll say, "Mr. Poole, it is such an honor to meet you. I've never seen a white person live before."
Hmm.
Okay. And they'll say, "Is there any way you can help me? I am starving."
Hmm.
They're not begging because they're trying to get alcohol or begging because they need to support anything, but they simply need food in their stomach. And you sit there and you say, okay, every kid here, before I lecture, I say, hey, raise your hand if you're the first child in your family's history to attend university. 90% of them. And I say, how does it feel? Does it make you feel proud? Yes. Does it put a lot of pressure on you? Yes. Do you
Mm-hmm.
still support your family at home? Yes. We lecture to a day school, and I'm listening to the faculty, and they're telling me that they don't have feminine hygiene products and they don't have fresh water. And there's a risk of rape when the girl's going down to the river to get water. My brain is freaking out. My heart is exploding. And I looked at my wife and said, we got to do something here. We have 3 girls, man. They need feminine hygiene products. We went to the head of the school after we lectured and says, is this true? And she said, yes. I said, this is unconscionable. What do we need to do to support and give every student here feminine hygiene products for a
Yeah.
year? It wasn't that much money.
Yeah.
Might have been $300 or $400 US for a year, 800 kids. So what we did was we support more than 40 children. We paid for their
Amazing.
university. Okay. And it is amazing. And we do FaceTime with them. We've bought phones for some and laptops for others. And we've helped with babies at home. And So that's a personal thing. On the bigger scale, we built water tanks. We built a computer library for a school. And then on an even bigger scale, we donated $4 million of NuCalm because one thing I noticed, Trey, was they're starving. Their stress is so profoundly greater than what I can fathom every day, but they all had mobile devices.
Yeah,
I said, voila, I
there
can at
you
least
go.
help you with sleep and with stress management and focus to give you the opportunity to ascend out of this. I mean,
Yeah,
it is incredible. It is
it's a
so
famous
it's
story.
so near and dear to my heart. I celebrated my 54th birthday with the Maasai warrior tribe in November of last year, and then celebrated my 30-year wedding anniversary with my wife there in
Wow,
March. And so there's
it is home.
it is home, and my wife and I plan on building a home probably in Kisii, Kenya, when we sell this company. And it was about halfway through the first trip, we're exhausted. Literally, you have to put your heart back together every day because there was one time on stage, Trey, where I love to speak, and I don't have any stage fright, and I'm really present. But it was the only time I can remember having dialogue with myself on stage, and I remember saying, "Don't start crying." I was
Ah,
so overwhelmed. I was like, "Just get through whatever you're saying. I don't even know what I want to say, but
yeah.
keep it together." If they've never seen a white man before, the last thing they want to see is a white man crying on stage. So
Let me
after
ask you
that
this.
day,
Go ahead.
we're getting dressed, and I said to my wife, I said, "I know what I want to do when we sell NuCalm because this has been my life for 15 years." And she said, "What?" I said, "I want to move here." And she says, "Oh my God, so do I."
That's great. That's amazing. It's obviously a generous spirit, and I want to get to a couple other things, but let me just throw this in. You may not even be able to talk about this; it's so new. But this giving part of what you do, um, didn't you just donate a bunch to SAG after as well, actors and such, entertainers, and because again, it's about stresses. We all have it, and now you've gone that road to try to help them. I know that's new news, so to
It
speak,
is.
but it's interesting the avenues this is taking you.
So we're a noble company with a noble heart, and we do the right thing when no one's looking. And it's hard because people don't believe that. They think there's reciprocity, expectation, obligation coming back to them. No, there isn't. I can tell you that we donated $500,000 of NuCalm to veterans when we couldn't make payroll.
Yeah,
We've been supporting cancer patients, Kenya University students, the military for more than 10 years. And so I don't watch the news a lot because it clouds my brain with unnecessary fear mongering. It's just not, I don't need it. I also don't have social media. So there's some things I've learned along the way of being in the neuroscience realm for the past 15 years of how I can do my own self-care. So I'm watching. I think I look at CNN or I'm on the news somewhere, and I just see this chaos, and you can see the vitriol in the faces of the labor strike, and you can feel it. It's
yeah,
visceral. And I say, okay, these poor people. There's 160,000 card-carrying SAG-AFTRA members, but what is it? 1 millionth of 1% are actually A-list actors and actresses. So 160,000 people are literally uncertain, scared, not sleeping, stressed out, and now they're angry. Angry requires a lot of energy and burns a lot of mental calories, and it just is a cascade to the sleep. And I said, you know what? We got to help these folks. It's that same kind of
yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
I'm in a position where I can do that. Hey, we get it, man. Labor strikes are filled with vitriol and concern and stress and fear. And you're a subset of our population, but you're a real driver to our culture. And you deserve some reciprocity. You deserve some love from the people that go to the movies and whatever it is. It's really easy for us to do that. We're proud of doing it,
Sure.
but it's the people that will call me and say, "Hey, you changed my life," or "Hey, you got my daughter off antidepressants," or "Hey, my kid is staying out of rehab."
That's what it's
That's
about.
why we do it.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And along those lines, I have to ask you this. I've got to go there. You mentioned earlier the social media part, exposure part, getting this to different people in different ways. You've worked with prominent businesses to do that. People like Tony Robbins. I have to ask you this. We just got off this whole, entertainment kind of venue that we were talking about. You got some free publicity
We
with
did.
Meghan Markle.
We
Meghan
did.
Markle. And it was a positive feedback. It was about your product. You can't really put a price on that, can you? And how did that even happen?
You know, you can't put a price on it. And we could talk for 2 hours on the social psychology of cultural America and cultural UK. So I'm in Alaska, of all places. I'd never been to Alaska before. I'm in this remote 44 miles, nautical miles away from the closest town, and I'm in an exclusive business retreat. And it's Saturday, August 12th, and my phone lights up. So the Royal Paparazzi basically photographs Meghan Markle wearing one of our clinical biosignal processing discs. So we have
Crazy.
NuCalm for the consumer in the form of a mobile app and a headphone. But we still do surgical procedures, work with cancer, pilots, addiction, military. So we still have a clinical strength product. So she's wearing this disc and they photograph her. And then all hell breaks loose. And there's this fight to figure out what it is. And then tabloid journalism comes in, it kicks in. Lori and I are on the phone. I'm not supposed to be working at this business retreat. And this is the first time I'm invited. And I'm probably not invited back because I'm sorry, guys, but I got to take care of this.
It's
We
a
had over
big deal.
we had over 400 media placements. We had just insanity. So here's what was fascinating to me. Of all the work we've been serving and protecting the United States Department of Defense, Special Forces, Navy SEALs, Air Force, Border Patrol, the FBI Hostage Rescue Team that's in Maine right now or in Tel
Yeah.
Aviv.
Yeah.
We've been protecting those who protect us. We've been working with cancer patients to keep them alive by slowing their stress down and improving their sleep quality. We've done 2 million surgical procedures replacing general anesthesia. We've done a lot.
Yeah.
No one cares until a celebrity gets spotted wearing one of your products. It's insanity.
It is, but you can't. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's a publicity that's free.
It was amazing. It was fast. It was fun. The only thing that I didn't appreciate about it is the disc is like a piece of pepperoni. They missed the pie. Tabloid journalism, they don't care. They would call me
No,
up, they'd interview me. They wouldn't put a single word of the interview in. I say, hey
I
guys,
believe.
I said the disc is simply an accessory. Please go to our website, look at the science, but also download the app and try it together and evaluate it. They didn't do any of that. Speed to market. Here's one
Yep.
thing that's also interesting, Trey. I'm pretty sure that the UK tabloids don't like Meghan Markle.
I don't
Okay?
know what gave it away.
Just picking this up. So our support team was like, we're getting really, really nasty messages. People literally are just spitting venom at us because we're helping a human being who clearly is under a lot of stress if she's hated. So we would just say, hey, we're sorry that you feel that way. You clearly could benefit from our product that manages stress.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And stress doesn't discriminate, and neither do we. We're pretty sure Meghan Markle has the same stress, if not more, than everybody else. The whole thing was fascinating, and you're right. There's definitely in the cultural zeitgeist the opportunity for awareness, and you never know where and when and how it's going to
Yeah.
happen. It was fascinating.
It had to be. It had to be a fun ride. We could talk forever. Let me end this interview with this. Two things. How do you measure success? And how does this ride end for you?
Success, Trey, will be measured when I'm a couple generations gone from this earth and people have figured out that they don't need drugs, they don't need alcohol, they don't need antidepressants, they don't need sleeping pills. They can use physics to manage their mental state because the human body is a perfectly architected system that knows how to heal itself. It's our minds that are out of control, and we've lost the ability to quiet our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Success is generations from now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This ride ends for me when I turn 58.
Ah.
There's no reason for it beyond I have a proclivity to work too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's Saturday, I'll work 12 or 13 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, I'll work 12 or 13 hours. I, I I love the weekends because I can be in control of what I need to get done as opposed to taking because we're a global company. So every
Sure.
morning I'm up, I'm on with Australia or the UK. So when I turn 58, hopefully I haven't wrecked my whole body and existence and I'm still functioning. I use NuCalm every day. I exercise. I eat well. I have 52 medical advisors on our advisory board, so I'm well taken care of diagnostically. I just felt like at some point I don't want to die bringing stress management to the world. That
Yeah.
irony doesn't sit well with me. And whatever reason, it was actually in COVID because people have always asked me, "Hey, what's your number?" I come out of the private equity banking world. What's your number? What's your number? I don't do this for the money. There is no number.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a number. But if you don't have a goal and a target, you can't reach it.
Yeah.
So I was on my Peloton at some point in like December of 2020, and it just occurred to me, hey, when you turn 58, November 19, 2026, you're done. And the
Wow.
next day, I spoke to our executive management team and said, hey, I have our exit plan. They said, what? I said, November 18, 2026, we're done. And that crystallization has changed everything for us because now we know we're 3 years and 1 month away from exit. So every decision, every company that comes to us, I get to filter. Hey, is that organization big enough? Is that organization capable enough? If they want to get into bed with us as a partnership, will they have the wherewithal to work with us? Do we have shared vision? Whatever. So that understanding has helped crystallize our decision making and resource allocation. So our exit's probably going to happen sooner because
Mm-hmm.
we're growing really fast. And people are, again, now with a free trial, you just try it. We know we got you.
Yeah.
We got you. So we've gone from 10,000 customers over a 12-year period, spending $6,000 and buying multiple systems, to over 100,000 customers in the last 18 months, and we're just getting started.
Thanks,
So,
Megan.
yeah.
I said, thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Meghan Markle. We love you.
Jim, it's a beautiful thing, honestly, man. It is so rare that products come before you that can, we said change the world or make a difference in society. And being able to listen to what you've had to say about NuCalm and what it can do for everybody across, again, any profession, any field you're in, any level of stress you're feeling, I'm sure there's a lot more to learn for people to do that. We appreciate you coming on the show and sharing this with us. But before we let you go, where can people do that? Website, social media, wherever it is you want them to go to learn more, tell us where to go.
www.nucalm, NuCalm.com. Sign up for the free trial. We hold your hand. We send you a daily video. This is what we want you to do today. Here's how it works. Here's how to do it. Here's how you're going to feel. We send you emails. We guide you on this process. It is so liberating for us to manage stress for you without drugs. You will be delighted. No one has ever said, hey, Jim, your story sounds like shit, or that product sounds terrible. No, we're all suffering. And this will help with your stress and it'll help with your sleep. We fix those two elements of your daily life. You are free to be who you want to be and deserve to be.
It's a
So
great message.
NuCalm.
NuCalm.com.
NuCalm.com. Come join the NuCalm family. We love to serve, and we've got a lot of things we can do to help you.
Appreciate it, Jim. Everybody go learn more. You can go learn more about Jim Poole too, but NuCalm and what they're doing, look and learn at what they're doing in this area of neuroscience, managing stress, believe in the technology. It's literally life-changing. Jim, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate the message and spending time with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. That'll wrap it up for this episode of The Edge of It All. Be sure and listen to us on UBN Go International Network or wherever you get your podcast. You can find us across all podcast streams as well as all across social media. Like us, follow us, subscribe. Thanks again to Jim Poole. Appreciate you, Jim, for coming on the show and discussing one of the most important issues of our time. Support NuCalm, everyone. Make your life better by going and learning more about it. Thank you to everyone for listening to The Edge of It All, the story behind the story, where each episode you will get a new story with inside scoop you have never heard before. Till next time, everybody.